Hi everyone, welcome to content support. So this is a new thing that we're trying in which we're going to have the trainings online with little quizzes just to make sure that you're understanding the content, but that you also have a way to ask questions as you're reviewing this content. So we're going to get started. This is what we're going to go over today. It's the 6 principles for writing for the web, since we really want you to think of your content for your programs as web content. So how to rewrite academic descriptions to be more web savvy. Then we're going to go over each content section for the academic pages that you'll be working with. So again, looking at each part of the text that will be on the page and making sure that we were writing this correctly in a right format that will be web-friendly, easy to read. And then lastly, we're just going to talk about how all of this will be part of the content workshop, the next steps, once we get the content finalized. So the goal for the content workshop or content support training is because we want to reduce the amount of time that you're spending rewriting this content. I know this is the most important phase of the academic pages redesign project. So thank you for taking time for this. We're just going to move quickly because we know that you guys are busy and that there's lots to do. So we'll get started with the principles for writing for the web. So principle number 1 is that writing for web is its own style of writing. So we have 2 different types of writing styles. Most of us working for a higher ed institution know academic writing. So this is a principle that they've shared with us since we were little of tell your reader what you're going to say, then actually tell them, then repeat what you told them. However, writing for web is entirely different. We want you to approach this as thinking of potential questions that your visitors may have, then you answer those questions, and then you link to more information. Now, this approach comes from the inverted pyramid. So this is just an approach that's been known for and used for decades now. But the idea is that at the top of the page, like front and center, you have the most important information. Then you have details on the information that you just shared, and then you provide additional background. So now we're going to talk about how this translates to the content that you're working with. So we have the index page of a program. The most important page, so again, from basic editor training, the index page is a landing page. So I'm talking about the landing page. If people want to know more about the history program or political science or whatever their program is, they're going to land on that landing page. The most important information will be the program description and the strengths. Now there are a lot of strengths for programs, and the description sometimes can get really wordy. So we're really looking for a nice 2-3 sentence summary. If you could have like 30 seconds elevator speech on the program and its strengths, what would that be? So an example that we have is from the MBA Online. So these are 2 sentences that summarize and capture the description and the strengths. So we have the MBA Online program provides an understanding of the various functions of businesses and organizations and prepares students for high-level management careers. So it tells you what it is, the types of careers that students have. That's 1 sentence. Now, sentence 2, students can complete the program and be ready for the next step of their career in as little as 1 year. That's a huge differentiator from students are browsing MBA online programs in other schools. So again, in those 2 sentences, students can start to consider, oh, this is why I want to consider the MBA online at CSU Pueblo. Now, part 2, details on information just shared. So right underneath that program overview, the starting 2 sentences, we have other reasons why students choose the MBA online program at CSU Pueblo. So it's everything that supports what the MBA online experience is. So it's small classes, there's the accreditation, the AACSB accreditation, 8-week courses, and everything's separated into bullets just so that it's easier to digest. So if you have emphasis areas, career possibilities, or anything that could be bulleted, I definitely encourage you to have that second section, the details on information just shared, kind of bulleted out, just so that, again, it's easier to digest right off the bat, especially with a skimming audience. Now, lastly, how we introduce additional information and background is with frequently asked questions. And I'll go more in depth as far as how to write these frequently asked questions, but that's just one way in which we've been able to add additional background right on the landing page front and center, and students can be able to easily find the details. So this brings us to principle number 2, right to be understood. Now, this is a popular quote from Nietzsche that some of you may have heard. Good writers have 2 things in common. They prefer to be understood rather than admired, and they do not write for the knowing and over-accurate readers. So the example I share with this, I have a friend who's in her 4th year of her PhD program. I asked her about her research, and she gave me this very detailed explanation of what her research is about. And at the end of it, I was so impressed. But I had no idea what her research was actually about because I didn't understand any of the terminology that she was using. So just make sure that you know who our audience is, and that's who you're writing for. So the audience for the CSU Pueblo website, it is those adult learners that haven't thought about school for 20-something years, or the first-generation students that don't really know how to tackle enrolling in a higher ed institution. So those are the people that we want to make sure we are talking to, and talking to at a level that's not the high academic speak that we normally have here on campus. Which moves us to principle number 3, to use care words. So an example that I have from the website, this is existing text on the CSU Pueblo website. We have a lot of descriptions that say secure educational environment or university that pursues academic excellence by. It's like, both of those sound great. However, thinking of that audience, we can more easily say this with safe environment or safe experience, best college for, and both of those things translate the exact same meaning as secure educational environment and university that pursues academic excellence. It's just using, I guess, the care language, more simple language. So part of what we strive for when it comes to website content is a 2nd or 3rd grade reading level. That's what, I guess, ranks us higher as well with accessibility and a lot of different scores when it comes to website efficiency. So make sure that whenever you are writing text, think about how you would explain a program to a 2nd or 3rd grader. So how you'd speak to a 2nd or 3rd grader is how you also want to write that content. So now principle number 4, expect your audience to land anywhere on your site. So this is an example that we have of a page. It's course offerings, but what you'll see here is that we have an apply now button in a widget. So we're going to give you a couple of widgets, one that's just the contact information, and then another that's a contact information widget with a button at the top for apply now, and that's just to make sure that there is a call to action to apply at every single page, just because someone might land directly on this page. So with that, also keep in mind what the most important content is for your program. So if that's written in the program overview, make sure maybe you mention or reword the program overview again in this course offerings. Mention the program that this page belongs to. So you could have course offerings and start the first sentence with students interested in the Bachelor of Science in Automotive Industry Management will have many opportunities to X, Y, and Z benefits. The courses you'll have to take are, so again, just mention strengths. Keep in mind that the audience may not have an idea of the type of content in other pages, so just make sure you mention the most important content or at least link to it. Now, principle number 5 is to provide a rich, immersive, and visual experience. This is something that we're going to have to take baby steps when it comes to the CSU Pueblo website as far as getting there. This template is trying to take an initial stab at adding testimonials, showcasing more of those real campus experiences with photos. So that's a little bit of what you see with the photos and the little sections as far as how they're laid out on the template. We just want to communicate with all of you that there is so much more that we can do and we will do. Right now, our focus is really the content. Let's make sure that the content is so strong, because you can have a really gorgeous design, but if the content is weak, then it doesn't matter how interactive your website is. the content won't sell. So it's really the content that should drive the design, and that's the approach that we're having for the CSU Pueblo website. So principle 5 is coming. And then our last principle, to embrace the white space. So this is a nice little reference to Blank Space by Taylor Swift, to those of you that are T-Swift fans, but just keep in mind that if you have a large chunk of text, readers will most likely not read that. So what we know about our digital audience is that they skim, and they skim for those keywords. So I actually have a quote from Jerry McGovern. He's the director of Land Rovers, the design director. He says, as web readers, we are hunter-gatherers once again. Only this time, instead of scanning the horizon for prey, we scan pages for keywords. When we see these keywords, we click and we act. So the more white space you have, the easier it is to skim, to find these keywords, to click, to act. But just keep in mind, anytime you do have a large chunk of text, 2-3 sentences tops, like add a space in between there. It really just give your content a little bit of breathe room for people to digest it. So now we're going to move on to page content, but we do have a little quiz for you just to make sure that you don't have any questions on the principles for writing for web, and also to make sure that you understand this content, that we're good to move forward. Thanks.